Dragon Pokemon have some of the best shinies, and that's a fact. So I decided to take on Alola with a full team of only shiny dragon types, as well as these rules. Yeah, this is the most brutal challenge I've ever done. Let's do this. So the run begins, and right away, I'm faced with a tragic reality. The starters in Ultra Sun are great and all, but not a single one is a dragon, which means they're basically just decorative. Because for this shiny only dragon run, the game doesn't actually begin until after the first trial, when I can finally start hunting my true starter, the fearsome dragon Noibat. One of the worst parts of this challenge is if I find any shiny that isn't dragon type, I'm not allowed to catch it, which is bold, painful, maybe stupid, but here we are. Okay, well this is gonna take forever. This hunt took ages, but trust me, this was nowhere near the toughest hunt I would face in this challenge. That'll come later. Still, it took hours before I finally found... No! Why did it have to be a Diglett? Not what we wanted. Not even close. But since Noibat isn't guaranteed, this is the kind of emotional damage I have to live with. So I do the only thing I'm allowed to do. I run away from the shiny. Fine. Reset number 1, I start again. I ran in circles for 6 hours, and then... You're kidding me! No. At this point, I was one Diglett away from becoming an angry gremlin. But one more time, I started over. Okay, what are the chances we're gonna get a shiny right now? This time, I went 15 hours without a single shiny. 15 soul-crushing hours. But then... it happened. Yes! 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 Let's go! I name her Arwen, and as always, I have a naming theme, so if anyone thinks they know what it is, drop it in the comments. For the first time in the run, I have a dragon, so I can finally play the game. Because immediately, I run into Ultra Recon Squad Dulce and his emotional support brick wall, also known as Furfru. This thing has double Noibat's base stat total. Double. And according to my rules, if I lose a battle, I have to release one of my Pokemon. So the stakes, very high, and my confidence, very low. Luckily, Furfru opens with Baby Doll Eyes, which is basically a free turn. The only way I can win this is if I hit Supersonic, and then Furfru punches itself in the head at least twice. That's the entire plan, and somehow it works. He hits himself, and we can retaliate with a gust that does... well, this isn't looking good. But thankfully, he hits himself again. Yes, come on. The only way this can go wrong now is if I flinch twice. But somehow the RNG gods come through as he hits himself again. Guess they're making up for giving me those 2 shiny Digletts. But with that, Arwen survives the first true wall of the run. Now technically, you can find a Bagon on Route 3. The problem is that it's a 1% encounter, so unless I want this challenge to turn into a full-time job, we can't shiny hunt it yet. I'll come back when I unlock a method that changes everything. For now, we have to face Kahuna Hala with nothing but a baby chew toy. Machop opens with Focus Energy, which means we can just 2-shot it without taking a scratch. Makuhita can't really do much, and thanks to our Citrus Berry, we stay healthy. Another easy KO. But then Hala sends out his ace, Crabrawler, and this thing is armed with a Z move that could absolutely delete us. So I go for Roost, and somehow we live on 5 HP. I start spamming Roost like my life depends on it, because it actually does. Then Crabrawler decides to start boosting with Power Up Punch, which is not ideal. But then I remember something important. If its attack is boosted, that means it also damages itself harder in Confusion. So I throw out a Supersonic, and Crabrawler hits itself. One gust takes it to red HP, and on the next turn, we win. And that's how we beat the first Grand Trial with a Noibat. So please guys, subscribe for Noibat. It helps me stay sane. With that out of the way, it was time to finally hunt that shiny Bagon. Once we reach Akala Island, we can pick up the Adrenaline Orb, which is essential for a little trick called SOS Chaining. It makes wild Pokemon more likely to cry for help, which lets us hunt shinies much faster. After finding the 1% Bagon, Bagon, which honestly felt like a shiny hunt on its own. Oh, there we go! We finally start chaining. With this SOS method, the shiny odds can go up to 1 in 273, which is still pretty bad. But at this point, I'll take anything. But after just over 3 hours, we finally find the shiny Bagon, and I was over the moon. We name her Galadriel, and she looks amazing. With Galadriel, our team is basically 2 babies in a trench coat, and those 2 babies are now up against Totem Araquanid. This thing has Aurora Beam, which is sure to one-shot both of my Pokemon, so I use my Flying type Z move straight away. It's not a KO, but it's a lot. Araquanid fires back with Aurora Beam, and somehow it doesn't kill. So an Air Cutter finishes the job. Trial complete. And the game is being suspiciously kind, which means something terrible is probably coming. And speaking of which, time to face Totem Marowak. Bagon knows Crunch, which takes a massive chunk out of Marowak right away. Next turn, I predict Detect and set up Rain. On the following turn, Bagon gets taken out, but the Rain stays, and it's Arwen's time to shine again. With the Water type Z move, we destroy Salazzle instantly. Marowak hits back with Hex, which thankfully doesn't KO, and we can clap back with a Rain boosted Water Pulse. Another trial down, somehow. And now we reach Lush Jungle, where our next shiny target waits. But before that, Totem Lurantis needs to go, and a Flying type Z move handles that perfectly. Now we begin one of the worst shiny hunts in this entire challenge. Shiny Goomy. Beautiful, adorable, and a nightmare to find. To get it, we need SOS chaining and constant rain by using Rain Dance. And there is a high chance of getting Caterpie or some other encounter instead. So yeah, brutal. Thankfully, this method is very effective, since just an hour later, this happens. No! No, no! Come on! We get a shiny Caterpie, which really is a punch to the guts. And obviously, we have to kill it. So I continue the chain, setting up Rain and hoping for a Goomy. And this time, I found... Seriously, what is up with these Caterpies? I took great pleasure in killing the shiny Caterpie before continuing the chain, and surely I wouldn't get another... Are you kidding me? The chain continues, but this time something felt different. The game had been testing me, and now I was worthy. After all the struggle, pain, and hours of hunting, we finally got it. Oh my god, yes! Let's go! We got a shiny Goomy, baby! We name her Gandalf, and with 3 team members, our team is finally taking shape. Next stop is Coney City. This place is basically a fossil supermarket, so I pick up the Jaw fossil. Now, this means we can head back to Route 8 and restore it into a Tyrant, which coincidentally is our next shiny hunt. And this hunt is old school. No SOS chains, just good old soft resetting, which was made a bit easier through my Magic Nintendo, which made resetting a bit faster. I did this for a whopping 8 hours before finally... Yes! Yes! We got it! We name him Saruman, who looks absolutely amazing, sporting that white and blue. And with a team of 4 dragons, I feel ready to take on Kahuna Olivia. Gandalf easily sweeps her Anorith, but Lily hits back and knocks Gandalf out. Galadriel then steps in, finishes Lileep, and now it's down to Olivia's ace, Lycanroc. I send out Arwen and use Protect, baiting Lycanroc to waste its Z move. Then Saruman comes out and fires off a Fighting type Z move, bringing Lycanroc to a sliver. We just have to survive a bite, and we can take down Lycanroc. That's the second grand trial beaten by what is still, by all definitions, a squad of toddlers. But finally, for the first time all run, we get an evolution. Galadriel turns into Shelgon, and the face it makes genuinely captures everything I've felt since the start of this challenge. Now, next up, I realize we can start our next shiny hunt, because through island scanning, we can encounter a Horsey. It's not a guaranteed encounter, so we could be in for another horrible hunt, but that's not the case this time, because barely 1 hour later, this happens. Oh my god, what? That didn't take long at all. What? I love Kingdra, so this one hits different. We name her Elrond, and thanks to Ryuki handing us a dragon scale, we can get a Kingdra. With our new and improved squad, I head into Totem Togedemaru, completely unaware I'm about to get destroyed. Ironhead chunks Gandalf immediately. We do barely any damage in return, and Gandalf goes down soon after. Elrond comes in only to get stalled by Spiky Shield, then hit for massive damage. Elrond goes down, and at this point, I'm starting to realize this ain't going so great. Saruman is next, and an all-out pummeling almost takes Togedemaru out, which gives me hope, but that hope is squashed on the next turn as Saruman gets deleted. I send in Arwen, and she lasts about 5 seconds. And finally, Galadriel comes out, and even with a super effective Brick Break, we barely dent it. And just like that, we lose. This is the first loss of the run, and remember, in this challenge, losing means releasing a shiny. I look at the team, and in the end, it comes down to Arwen and Gandalf. And out of the two, unfortunately, Gandalf has to go. The Pokemon we went through so much trouble to obtain. We release her. The shiny we suffered hours for, gone. After that, I need revenge. So I go back in with a plan. Galadriel leads and sets up Rain, while Togedemaru predictably uses Spiky Shield. Then I switch to Elrond, whose Swift Swim activates and whose water moves now hit a lot harder. Water Pulse hits both Togedemaru and its Skarmory summon hard, and once the rain stops, I send Galadriel back in. I try all-out pummeling, but this thing is a draconic ping pong ball. And now the situation looked dire again. Would we really lose again? Well, with Rain back up again, I send Elrond back out. And after 2 more brines, we finish off Togedemaru, finally avenging our fallen friend. But with 1 less teammate, we need replacements. And Island Scan lets us find Axew. Shiny Haxorus is one of my all-time favorites, so I really wanted one. I started hunting, running around Mount Hokulani, chasing that shiny little dragon, and after just 4 hours, I struck gold. Oh yeah! Let's go! Probably my favorite shiny ever, Haxorus. We name her Gimli, and she is perfect. But even with Gimli on the team, I wasn't feeling confident, because up next would be one of the biggest challenges so far, Totem Mimikyu. It's a fairy type, hits like an absolute truck, and every single dragon on my team folds to it like wet paper, so I need help. A Turtonator would partly resist those fairy moves, so I started hunting for one on Blush Mountain. I started the SOS chain, and after 6 hours of hunting, there was nothing in sight. And then I accidentally broke the SOS chain. Not great, except literally 2 seconds later, this happened. What? And that wasn't even from the chain! That's right, we did not get the shiny through the boosted odds SOS method, but the second we started hunting normally, we run into the shiny. Because, of course. We name it Gollum, and in this next fight, it was absolutely gonna be my precious. Sorry. Mimikyu opens with Play Rough, which deals a scary amount, but Gollum hangs on and breaks the disguise. Important first step because that thing is basically a free substitute. Next turn, Flamethrower does solid damage, but Gollum is now 1 hit away from fainting. Mimikyu goes for Play Rough again, and it misses! That lets us fire off 1 more Flamethrower to get Mimikyu in the yellow. I send out Gimli next, who gets absolutely obliterated right away, and that is why we needed Gollum. So I send out Galadriel instead, who can barely tank a Play Rough, but it's enough to retaliate with Shadow Claw and take out the Mimikyu. That fight would definitely not have been possible without Gollum, so those were hours well spent. With Totem Mimikyu finally behind us, it's time to challenge Nanu. But at this stage, our team is actually starting to resemble something that isn't a daycare. Nanu gets swept clean by our dragons without much resistance. So with the Grand Trial cleared, it's time to deal with the bad guys. Guzma shows up first, and his pincer immediately tears through half my team, taking out Gollum, Arwen, and Gimli like they're made of paper. Galadriel has to drag the fight back under control, and thankfully she does. Guzma's down to Vikavolt, but Elrond gets blasted off the field by a couple of hits, which leaves us with a 1v1. Vikavolt versus Saruman, and if we are slower, it's over. I pray that Saruman's faster than Vikavolt, And thankfully it is. We barely beat Guzma, and now it's time to face the big boss, Lusamine. Lusamine's Milotic is a menace, taking out Golem and Elrond immediately. I send out Arwen, my smallest, weakest Mon, and she somehow dodges a lethal Hydro Pump and takes down Milotic. But Lopunny instantly avenges it, taking Arwen out. Saruman steps in, deals some damage, and then gets slammed by a Thunder Punch. It looks fatal, but Saruman survives on 1 HP. But Bewear takes out Saruman right after, leading to a clash between Galadriel and Bewear. And with a Z move, we win the clash. Finally, Lusamine is down to Lilligant. Galadriel eventually falls, leaving just Gimli. Lilligant outspeeds and hits Gimli with a Petal Dance that leaves her on 16 HP. If we don't one-shot now, it could all be over, so we fire back with a Dragon Claw and... that was down to the wire. As a reward for surviving that blockbuster of a battle, we get treated to a series of evolutions. Arwen, our starter, finally evolves into Noivern, Gimli evolves into Haxorus, and Galadriel finally evolves into Salamence. For the first time all run, we have a full team of grown dragons, and they look incredible. Next up is Totem Kameo, but with this boosted squad, we blow through it even with the Omni Boost. Our team looks unstoppable, or so I thought, because next is Ultra Necrozma. This thing is a war crime, one of the strongest opponents in the entire series. Still, with a full team of fully evolved dragons, I'm feeling confident, which is adorable in hindsight. The moment the battle starts, it becomes obvious how completely outmatched we are. One by one, my dragons get wiped off the field before they can even land a hit. It's a clean sweep straight through my team, and the fight is over before I can even process what happened. This hit hard because it means we're gonna have to release one of our amazing Pokemon, and I had such a hard time figuring out which one to release. But ultimately, I decided it had to be Saruman. He was too slow to work as a sweeper, and the other team members had important roles on the team, so we said goodbye to Saruman. But with Ultra Necrozma now ahead of us and being one Pokemon shorter, it was clear we had to shiny hunt, and our target was shiny Jangmo. SOS chaining should have made it easy, but the game had other plans.
Is this just not working? Why is nothing happening?
I can't do this anymore. I hunted for an entire day, but 4 hours into the next day, it finally happened.
What if we get a shiny right now? Right now. Right?
Oh my god, what? We got a shiny Kameo! Let's go! There is no way that just happened. We name him Frodo, evolve him immediately, and head back for revenge. Realizing there's no way to beat it without surpassing the level cap by a large margin, our only hope is Toxic stalling. So Golem, equipped with a Focus Sash, lands a Toxic and then protects to stall. I send Gimli in next and once again protect. It's a waiting game now, and slowly but surely, Necrozma succumbs to poison. Eventually, the damage caught up and we had cheesed our way through this monster. That's for taking out Saruman. But things don't really get easier from there. The final totem, Ribombee, is a fairy type that gets an instant Omni Boost. So once again, I go with Toxic. Mentally, I cannot afford to lose another shiny. But after a couple turns of poison, Ribombee falls, and with that, the island challenge is cleared. Well, okay, we quickly have to destroy Hapu, but right after that, we've officially cleared the island challenge. Now all that's left is the Pokemon League. But before taking it on, there is one final shiny I really wanna hunt. In Ultra Megalopolis, you can find Poipole, and with save state resets, we can reroll encounters fast.
This is one of the best shinies ever, so I really want it.
If you like watching me waste every second of my free time, hit the subscribe button and like the video. Even with a fast pace, it still takes us over 7 hours before finally... Oh! There we go! Let's go!
It looks so good.
We name it Sauron, and Sauron isn't a dragon yet, but we can evolve it into an Aganadel, and wow, its shiny is definitely the best yellow shiny ever. There's no debate there. And now it's time for the Elite Four.
Bye-bye, Mandibuzz. First Elite Four member down. 3 to go. That should do it. Yup, there we go. Half of the Elite Four done.
Let's take on Olivia.
No,
We're keeping the rain up no matter what.
There we go. Get out of here. Her ace is out, but it won't be for long. There we go. All right, that's Olivia down. All right, last guy, let's take him. All right, let's kill the Metagross. Oh my god, it has 1 HP. Come on, come on. Yes! Critical hit, just when we needed it. Metagross is out.
Our team is clearly incredibly stacked, and we crushed the Elite Four without trouble. And just like that, we only had Howl left to battle before we could claim the throne as champion and the ultimate shiny dragon tamer. Howl opens with Alolan Raichu, so I send out Galadriel first to set up rain, which will help later on. Once the rain is going, Gimli jumps in and finishes off Raichu, but Howl fires right back. His Grabominable hangs on through the hit and then crushes Gimli in return. Losing her this early in the fight is rough, and it puts pressure on the rest of the team right away. Arwen comes out next, and with the rain still falling, Hurricane turns into a perfect shot, so she clears Crabominable off the field, and then follows up with a clean hit on Primarina. But even with that extra chunk of damage, Primarina is still very much alive and ready to fire back. Sauron steps in to close it out, and Sludge Bomb finally brings Primarina down. The biggest threat to our dragons is gone, but Howl answers with Tauros. One Earthquake slams into Sauron and drops him to 15 HP. He holds on just long enough to strike back and take Tauros with him. Now Howl sends out his Noivern. Sauron tries to meet it head on with Dragon Pulse, but it leaves Noivern just outside knockout range. Noivern fires back and finishes Sauron, and suddenly the match tilts again. I send Galadriel in to clean up, but Noivern outspeeds and drops her in one hit. And for a moment, it looks like this fight might slip out of reach. Elrond is next, firing off an Ice Beam, and Noivern finally falls, which means Howl is now down to his final Pokemon, Flareon. Elrond shoots out a final Scald, and Flareon is down, and that's it. We beat the game with only shiny dragon types. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the shiny only madness, hit subscribe because it really helps me make more of these videos. And check out the next video where I take on another insane challenge.